Norway striker Erling Haaland used to be in a rap group called the Flow Kings alongside two other Norwegian footballers.
We can't barely believe our eyes that we, Norway, country of 6 million people, have produced a global superstar and one of the best football players in the world.
Welcome, everybody, to Make Football Great Again, your definitive 48-nation roadmap to the 2026 World Cup. I'm Harry Brent, and over the coming weeks and months, we're profiling every single nation heading to the tournament this summer to find out more, not just about the teams, but about the countries, cultures, and fans involved. And hopefully, we'll uncover a few little stories and secrets along the way, too. And I'm hoping that especially for today, because I'm delighted to say we are doing our Norway episode, and we're joined by former footballer Markus Fjørtoft, the son of former Norway and Premier League striker Jan Age Fjortoft, and host, the two of them together actually, of the German Fussball Podcast. Markus, thank you so much for being here. How's it all going?
No, pleasure to be a part of this. Look forward to discussing Norway with you. It's been a while since we've been able to be part of a World Cup, so now to talk through, have a little preview of this feels The occasion is slowly but surely creeping in on us, and as Norwegians, we're pretty excited, to say the least.
Yeah, big summer for the Norwegians. So in a second, we'll learn all about Norway and what to expect from them this summer. But before we get officially cracking, Markus, I'm going to kick off with this segment I like to call One Truth and One Lie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present two seemingly crazy facts about the Norway national team to you. One of them is 100% true. The other one is completely made up. So I'll read them back to back, and then you let me know which you think is the true fact. So fact number one. Norway striker Erling Haaland used to be in a rap group called the Flow Kings alongside two other Norwegian footballers. Fact number two. In 1992, a World Cup qualifier between Norway and Turkey was delayed for 20 minutes because a moose wandered onto the pitch. So, Markus, what do you reckon? Was Erling Haaland in a rap group called the Flow Kings, or did a moose disrupt a World Cup qualifier involving Norway and Turkey?
No, I appreciate those two statements. Whether I wish they both were true. I really wish the moose story was true. The reason I think that is a lie is I suspect that my father, who used to play for the national team at the time, he would have told me of that story. And then I've seen clips, I think, of Erling Haaland from way back where he was rapping or something of the kind. So by process of elimination, but a sprinkle of kind of knowledge, I will go for your first statement to be the truth and for the moose, unfortunately, to be the lie.
That's absolutely correct. You're right. I should have factored that in, actually. Knowing when your dad played for Norway, I should have factored that in my lie. But yes, Erling Haaland. So the Flow Kings consisted of Erling himself, Erik Botheim, another Norway international, and Erik Sandberg, who only made it so far as the Norway under-19s. They still have one video up on YouTube where they're rapping in their bucket hats and with their shirts off. It's fantastic. Go and check it out on YouTube if you haven't already. So Norway, we haven't seen them in the World Cup since France '98, where they famously beat Brazil in the group stage. They reached the knockout stages of that tournament, were beaten 1-0 by Italy in the round of 16. They then failed to qualify for the following 6 World Cup tournaments, but are back with a bang after winning all 8 of their 2026 World Cup qualifying matches, including 2 victories over Italy, both of which by 3-goal margins. As for the tournament itself, they're in Group I alongside France, Senegal, and Iraq. And if they finish runners-up in that group, they'll face the runners-up from Group E in the last 32, which could be Germany. What a game that could be, especially, Markus, for someone who hosts a German football podcast alongside their former Norway international father, might I say. So before we get into
don't indulge me. I'm already getting carried away.
Should be a heck of a contest, both domestically and and overseas. So before we talk about the 2026 World Cup, I just want to kick off with a segment we call the travel log. So before we talk players and tactics, I want to get to know a little bit more about Norway as a footballing nation, as a footballing culture. So to kick us off, who, apart from your dad, is Norway's footballing GOAT?
I was actually thinking through this, and then it's, does time and history define GOATs, the greatest of all times? Now, we've had our fair share of successes, legends, you could call it, our heyday being in the 90s, known then for having Egil Drillo Olsen as the coach in his trademark folded down wellies. And he later had a spell with Wimbledon as well. But we're known for a strong collective, even though we had a fair amount of players in the Premier League. Then you look at the goal scoring charts, and it doesn't take too much guessing to think who tops that chart. For the longest time, we had Jürgen Juve, who, when you looked always in the program, when you went to national team games, you always saw Jürgen Juve always had the record, 34 goals scored. And you thought, oh, well, who's going to beat that? Solskjaer was there. John Carew, Jon Arne Riis was in there. Dad was there, to be fair, on 20, so I'll give him the shout out for that. And then you have a certain man by name Erling Braut Haaland, who just dismantles this record in like a record amount of time. He is now on, bear in mind, the previous record was 34 goals. He's now got 55 goals in 49 international games.
It's crazy.
So at the age of 24 years old. Yeah. So when we talk about GOATs, yeah, he's still playing, but it is Erling Haaland. He is the footballing GOAT, and he will probably be that for all of Norwegian football history, because what we are witnessing with Erling Haaland, we can't barely believe our eyes that Norway, country of 6 million people, have produced a global superstar and one of the best football players in the world.
Speaking of Haaland, your father is good friends with Erling's father, Alfie Haaland. How early were you made aware of Erling Haaland and how good he could become?
Well, he broke through relatively early. He came through and he was at Bryne, which is his local club, and then he went to Molde at 17, and he scored a hat-trick there pretty early on against Brent. And you knew it was something special. I remember back I'm born in 94. Back in 2004, it was a 10-year anniversary for the Norwegian national team. So the 94 squad played against Vålerenga at the time. And at the halftime, the Suns got to play at halftime. And I was playing there. I was 10 years old. And I played then with his big brother during that halftime. And we were able to link up. But obviously, there was a younger one on the sideline that was coming through, and and then it was Erling Haaland who went on from going through Bryne, Molde, and all credit to him in terms of his career progression, rather than going to a Juventus, which he was linked to at the time, went to RB or Red Bull Salzburg, and at the time when he made his debut in the Champions League against Genk. Dad, who worked the Champions League with Viaplay, was sent to the Liverpool game. And in that game against Genk, he scored a hat-trick, as per, you would say. And I think then at like 3 or 4 a.m. That night, I think Dad got a text from Erling Haaland, and he said, "Well, I think you picked the wrong game." And I think from then, what Erling Haaland was in terms of presenting himself on the international stage, in the biggest club competition in the world, is really from there on out. And as we know, not speaking too much about what Dad's done, but when he was there at Dortmund as well, when he made his debut and he came on, he was there as well because he was following the Bundesliga for Viaplay as well. So it's been a journey in which he's been intimately close to. And of course, Norway is small, and football, Norwegian football is small. So those paths sort of overlap. And we are immensely proud that we have not only Erling Haaland, of course, and Martin Ødegaard, what have you, to be these, to be Norwegian representatives on the very biggest stage.
Mm. You mentioned Martin Ødegaard there. You got his shirt on the wall behind you. he became an international sensation, emerging, playing first team football in Norway, when he was barely out of sort of GCSE years at school. Then he signed for Real Madrid age 15. Do you think that move at such a young age helped or hindered his career?
It's a topic that has been widely discussed in Norway as well. And at the time as well, it was, well, what is the right choice for such a huge talent? I mean, at the age of 15, he's playing for Strømsgodset and he's dominating the Norwegian league. I would actually go onto YouTube and look at some of the goals and assists that he had at 15 years old. His ability to just glide through the opponent. I mean, at 15 years old, as you say, barely GCSEs or what have you. So then it's, well, what do you do then? Where is the next stage for your development? Because there's plenty of examples through world football history of players that are immensely talented at 15 and can't take that next step up. And the verdict at the time, you had all the biggest clubs coming for him. You had a Bayern, you had a Liverpool, you had an Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid, etc. And then, of course, there are different circumstances. So Bayern wants him at the time. Pep Guardiola is there, desperately wants Martin Ødegaard. And then it's question, well, how long would Pep Guardiola be at Bayern? And how will that look like? What's the B team situation like? Because he's not going to go into any first team immediately at the age of 15. The same for Liverpool. What does that second, the B team model look like? And then you made the verdict. You looked at Real Madrid and you saw a Real Madrid Castilla, Real Madrid B, coached by Zinedine Zidane. You saw a first team group. He was guaranteed to train with the first team, with the likes of the Ronaldo, the Benzemas, the Modric, everyone. So on a day-to-day basis, he was training with the very best players. You could play with Castilla. And the thinking being that, well, Strømsgodset is level 1, Norwegian football. Real Madrid is level 5. You can always go down to level 4 or 3. You can go on loan to a Ajax or a Heerenveen that he ended up doing. You could go to a Real Sociedad, but let's go here. And then you can say, well, is that right? I think character building, huge. The fact that the fact that Real Madrid probably don't have that big of a history to bring up players from the academy through the B team up there, maybe that could have been a bigger factor. The fact that he was training on a day-to-day basis with the first team, but was playing games with the B team, in terms of how he got along with the team, in terms of how they would see that, even though he's the nicest man around. So those are obviously factors. But I want to use this opportunity to give so much credit to Martin Ødegaard for the way he handled it, and to be able to live up to the expectations that he had is so impressive. Because like I said, when you're 15, there's no guarantees, with so many examples of it. He's an incredible humility. He's obviously had incredible talent. But that's not enough either. He's able to have a resilience to him, a perseverance to him through the Real Madrid time, to the loans, to then go into Arsenal, where he was on loan initially, and then built himself up to not only Norway captain, but Arsenal captain. Been one of the best performers in the Premier League. Obviously, a bit of an off season this season because of injuries and all that comes with it. But I have so much respect for Martin Ødegaard in terms of how he's handled his career now. At the pinnacle and now leading Norway out to a World Cup as captain.
Premier League history is littered with iconic Norwegians: Solskjaer, Riise, Henning Berg, Ronny Johnsen, John Carew, Morten Gamps Pedersen. The list goes on. Who, in your mind, is the most underrated Norwegian in Premier League history?
It's one of those funny, because when you get those segments, the streets will never forget players. It's always Morten Gamps Pedersen that comes up. And I don't know, you explain me, but there's something about English football culture that Morten Gamps Pedersen was always able to capture the imaginations of. And it was, obviously, he had a wonderful left foot. And the story there being is he actually was right-footed growing up, and he trained so much on his left foot. And we know Morten Gamps Pedersen for his left foot. That was a story, and he's always been an extremely hard worker, extremely fit. So that's an incredible story at that. I think, unfortunately, the way that the career is maybe paved out after his career and all that came with it, we tend to forget actually how good Jan Age Fjortoft was as left back for Liverpool, part of that Liverpool team in Istanbul. The amount of goals he scored for the national team as left back, the amount of setbacks he's had on a personal level, and always was able to bounce back. And obviously you then have Solskjaer as well. So maybe not as underrated, but he was obviously our big icon before Erling Haaland, because he played for Manchester United. He's been a manager for Manchester United. He scored the winning goal in the Champions League. So was it best and underrated or just best?
Well, give us both. Why, if you can?
Okay. I mean, other than Erling Haaland, other than Martin Ødegaard, before those two, phenoms or phenomenal players came through, I would have said it was Solskjaer, and then underrated. Yeah, let's give it to Morten Gamst Pedersen.
Morten Gamst Pedersen, the right footer, the Morten Gamst Pedersen.
Yes, exactly.
For those tuning in, who do you think is the best Norwegian, the most underrated Norwegian? Let us know in the comments. Markus, your dad represented Norway at the 1994 World Cup. Now you were too young to watch him at that stage.
I was there, but I was too young to remember.
You were there. You got World Cup experience. Did he ever tell you any cool stories about being out there in the States? Obviously, we're going back there in a few weeks' time. What was it like out there for him?
We came there, first time. It was huge enthusiasm around Norway going to the World Cup, the same way it was now, and we thought we were going to be so clever. So the heat was, and it will be a factor again at this World Cup. And Norwegians thought they were going to be clever and say, okay, we're going to prepare as best possible for the heat. So we are going to train with those trash bags, the black trash bags that kind of keep all the heat. So they trained with them. They trained hard. It was double sessions every day. And then you saw the other teams, the Swedes, who had a pretty good tournament, shirt off, relaxed, and everything. So by the time the tournament came along, and Norway, you could say, were the group of death again. Then they had Ireland, they had Mexico, and they had Italy. All teams ended up on 4 points. But Norway had won their qualification group against England and Netherlands, which was a huge shock at the time. But unfortunately, wasn't able to convert on in the group stages, and they went out. Obviously, a very magical experience. First game against Mexico at the RFK Stadium in DC when they won, and that started that game as well. So a fantastic memory for the family. My grandparents went. Made a huge trip out of it, but then I think it was a little part of them that wished that we could have gone further than the group stages.
Right, we'll move on to the scouting report. So in this section, we'll find out a little bit more about Norway, the team, and what we can expect from them this summer. So just for the British fans tuning in, Markus, who are we going to recognise in the squad? You've obviously mentioned already Erling Haaland, Martin Ødegaard. Who else are we going to recognise?
Well, if we start with the attacking players, you have a Oscar Bob around there. I don't think he'll start, but we know him from City, now at Fulham. Struggled to find his rhythm this season. Behind Erling Haaland, because you have the second striker is Göran Sørloth, that's his father, who played in the 90s. Alexander Sørloth, who plays as sort of as a right winger, even though we've seen him as the target man for Atletico Madrid. You have Jørgen Strand Larsen at Wolves last season, 14 Premier League goals for them, now at Crystal Palace. And then you have a Sander Berge in the middle, the one controlling the game, dictating the tempo there. I think he's really grown into a very highly rated Premier League midfielder. I think in terms of how we see Sander Berge is probably what we imagined him being a couple of years ago, and I think he's fulfilled that and grown into that. Not the most sensational of players, but one of those players you need in a team to dictate the tempo. Then the back four, which is my big worry for the tournament, even though it's gotten better. The quality, not as much there, but you have Christopher Ajer at Brentford, who are great, but has been a bit in and out of the team at Brentford, and Hegem, who's now Bologna, used to be at West Bromwich last season, and so they will be the two centre backs, and then you have Müller-Wolfe, who is a left back at Wolves, who has been in and out of the team as well. He's going to play left back, played all the qualification games, and then you have Ørjan Nyland in goal. He was at Villa for a bit of time, I believe, on loan. He's at Sevilla, doesn't play. So that is the big worry for us. It's not as much what's going forward. It's it is that back four and the goalkeeper where I'm a bit, well, how do we measure up against the Senegals and the France when it comes to that?
Yeah, you mentioned Senegal and France and Iraq also in the group. Is qualification to the knockout rounds the target for Norway, or do they have aspirations to go even further?
Depending on what Norwegians you ask, we think we can go all the way to the final. You know, we are getting so carried away. We're indulging in every fantasy of well, we can be the dark horses, and there's nothing we love more than when foreigners speak of Norwegians. We love that, and so we get carried away when you guys are giving us the dark horse. But there is a case to be made that when does a team become so much of a dark horse that it's just a favorite? You know, and I feel like that is the position Norway find themselves in now. Everyone's saying, don't count on Norway, don't count on Norway. And then this narrative is spun now to the point where it's like, oh, it's a bit of pressure on us now, isn't it? So I think if we get knockouts, that sounds a bit defensive. If we get knockouts, I'm happy because we have an extremely tough group. Maybe we can go in as number 3, but then again, you have to win against Iraq. Then you play Senegal, AFCON champions or not, I see it. And then you play France. And France A, France B, and France C are all extremely good teams. So for me, it doesn't matter whether France have won 10-0 their first 2 games and are resting their team. What difference does that make for us? We're still playing incredible team. And then it's a matter of, well, how many points you got for the third space and everything. And there are more manageable groups than ours. So I hope to go to the knockout stage. I would be, a bit disappointed if we didn't. But I'm not as optimistic. I would say I'm more realistic based off the fact that we have limited tournament experiences. Yes, despite the amount of profiles, still tournament experience matters. And Norwegians in this heat, that's my other concern.
Who is more important to Norway, Erling Haaland or Martin Ødegaard?
Good question. I think based off the fact that these last few qualifying games, we played without Martin Ødegaard. We went to San Siro, we beat Italy. We managed to qualify without Martin there. He is extremely important for us. But if we're going to have a chance to win games and get through, we need both for sure. And Martin and Erling get along very well personally, but also on the pitch. So we need someone to find him, right? But I think if we're going to rank it, Erling Haaland is more important. He's the one we're going to look to. He's the one we're going to need to score 3, 4, 5, 6 goals to be able to deal up against a France and the Upamecano and the Salibas and the Koulibaly in the Senegal. So I think he will be the most important for us because we're going to need the goals. And he has some good players around him as well that can help him achieve that.
Yeah, speaking of the good players, beyond Haaland and Ødegaard, who obviously most fans listening will know and be fully aware of their talents, are there any Norwegian players that perhaps are flying under the radar a little bit that could have a breakout tournament and announce themselves to the world?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what Norway have done well, which has been a very exciting time in Norwegian football, is the amount of profiles and players with X Factor that we've been able to develop. I mentioned Oscar Bob, who unfortunately hasn't been able to have taken that next step. He had a big injury at City. You look at Alexander Sørloth, who works with Erling Haaland. Haaland doesn't really play with a 2 up front. It's more the fact that you play either a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-3-3. And Alexander Sørloth, who is a similar physical profile as Erling Haaland, does very well to manage this role of not being an out-and-out winger on the right side. He works close enough with Erling Haaland, but he's still playing more as a winger as such. So he's able to find that balance, which is huge credit to Alexander Sørloth and how he deals with that, and also Solbakken in terms of how he plays it. But I would say from a breakthrough standpoint, just because he is on the world stage, but in terms of taking that true announcement on the world stage, I haven't seen yet, and that is Antonio Nusa, who is at RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, been linked to close to a Tottenham transfer a couple of years back. But now at RB Leipzig, and who tends to perform better on the national team than he does RB Leipzig. We've seen in spells with RB Leipzig, he plays week in, week out. It's him on the side. It's Jan Diomande, who is a player that will be huge links to over the course of this summer. 2 extremely exciting wingers. So they form those part of this very exciting attacking trio. But at the national team, Nusa is incredible, and his ability to take on a man, he plays off the left to go either left or right, and when he cuts in, he's extremely good to either for the shot, but also cut in and have the cross, the in-swinger on the back post often to a Haaland, to a Sørloth. And I think when you see him play, and the excitement you get from watching Antonio Nusa play is I have some great memories of watching him with the national team, and I hope and I think he's able to take that extra step onto the world stage.
If you could turn one England player Norwegian for the World Cup, who are you picking and why? And I have to just say, we asked this question to all our guests. I think this is one of the few occasions where I'm not expecting Harry Kane to be the answer. So this will be an interesting one.
No, it's correct. Because I was thinking, well, I would have loved Harry Kane. But we have Erling Haaland. And I think we are, as absurd as it seems, but we maybe need him less. And then I look to England's back four. And then I'm thinking, well, is there anyone out now that I would want there? So I'm going to go for the player behind me in a Jude Bellingham. Even though we have a kind of a plethora of attacking options, I think any team that has Jude Bellingham in their team there, he could play with a Sander Berge, he could play with a Fredrik Aursnes, who's at Benfica, he could play with anyone, but he could be there in a three, he could have the freedom because he had Sander Berge behind him to just go and be Jude Bellingham and be what he does best, and also introduce a bit of that grit. We Norwegians have gotten better at it, but in terms of that nastiness, I think we would have benefited hugely from having Jude Bellingham. But let's see if he makes the England team first. So if he doesn't make the England team, he's more than welcome to make the Norwegian team.
Jump ship. Right, we'll just wrap up with some rapid fire questions about the World Cup. Then we'll get your controversial prediction for the tournament. So, Markus, who is going to win the 2026 World Cup?
So I am torn between France and Spain. So on one hand, I want to say France, and then I'm going to go to Spain on the other because of the tournament experience and what they have to show to. I can cover a bit of my bases mentioning the two there. And then, I think this could be yet another tournament and maybe another safe choice, but can't underestimate the tournament experience that comes from it.
Mm-hmm. You kind of already alluded to it earlier, but where do Norway end up?
I think that we'll scrape through to a third and then get a group winner. And then anything is possible in that knockout round. I just think you go into Iraq, you have to win. You can't really play to the occasion. You just have to go out there and treat like any other. And then you go Senegal, which will be the decisive game. And then you have France. I mean, it's a case where Senegal could beat France. I think Senegal will do really well. And they are one of the best teams in tournament, in my opinion, in terms of preparedness, in terms of how they're done in AFCON. So scrape through third, then let's see what comes from that. Then I'm more optimistic or playful, if you may.
Erling Haaland's left foot or John Arne Riis's left foot?
John Arne Riis's left foot was a great left foot, wasn't it? But I think we will desperately lead Erling Haaland's left foot because of his finishing, and just because of the sheer presence and fear that strikes into any team, that that despite Norway's weaknesses, you're going up against one of the best, if not the best, striker in the world. And take note, Erling Haaland on the national team as well. Slightly different role in the sense that, yes, there will be spells where he's not as involved, but you'll see more of an expressive Erling Haaland. He's not as dictated by how he has to move. It's more because Erling Haaland is a Norwegian player. He's our vice captain. He's our big star. You might see someone who is able to have a bit more touch on the ball, who's able to take people on. And for those that remember when he was at Dortmund, when we saw some of the goals where he'd maybe take it from deep and run at opponents. I mean, it's like a train running at you. And I think that's what's fun to see Erling Haaland on the national team as well. He's slightly a bit more involved. And I think people will quite enjoy seeing that version of him coming on the stage at the World Cup.
A bit more quintessentially Haaland. Yeah, exciting stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Lastly for this section, Morten Gamst Pedersen or Jan Age Fjortoft?
Yeah, Fjørtoft all day. Come on. No, you know what? I'll say, it is what it's funny when you get older is you tend to see things in more perspective. So obviously when you're a kid and you grow up having a father who's played, and it's great, and you grow up into it. But then when you go older, I've had a career myself, by no means at the level of dad's, but then you realize what it takes to be Premier League football, Bundesliga footballer, playing World Cups and what have you. And that's what's been fun, that on this footballing journey, I've realized, well, from when I came up as a teenager until now, in terms of what it takes, in terms of the stages that you play at. The fact that Norway is going to the World Cup, and he was there, and I was there as a 4-month-old, for that matter. But it's fun to revisit that. And of course, Norway now in the coverage, everything, we're revisiting the good old times. The only negative for the players in the 90s is that they can no longer say they were the best team. Well, they could say, well, we went to 2 consecutive World Cups, we were second in the FIFA ranking, but up until now, the heyday was back in the 90s. But now there's a new heyday. There's a new, very optimistic and successful time period for Norwegian football. And quite frankly, it's about time that we had it as well.
Well, that seems like an appropriate note to end on. Markus, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time and really, really enjoyed chatting to you. That does it for our Norway preview. Let us know in the comments how you think Erling Haaland and co will get on at the tournament this summer. And join us next time for more stories, insights, and deep dives as our global scouting mission continues.